Thank you. Thank you very much. When Mark Twain first emailed me about the Mark Twain Prize, I have to admit I totally misunderstood. I assumed that I was being asked to honor somebody else who was receiving the Mark Twain Prize, and I thought, oh my God, what a hassle. I mean, seriously, who would put me through this? To have to go all the way to Washington, D.C., which, no offense, is a nightmare, and make up flattering things to say about how funny someone else is? No way. And then I reread the email, and I realized, oh, it's me. They're giving it to me. I get the prize. And my attitude about the whole thing changed. It really did. I don't know, honestly. I really don't know what I was thinking. This is a great night and a great honor, and in beautiful Washington, D.C., no less. Anybody would be lucky to be a part of a night like this honoring somebody like me, right? As a great fan of the work of Mark Twain, I was so sorry when I recently learned he was dead. My thoughts and prayers go out to the whole Twain family, especially the wonderful Shania. Unfortunately, the President of the United States couldn't make it tonight either, even though he lives in the neighborhood Mondays through Wednesdays. I am so lucky to have been on television doing comedy for more than 35 years. Isn't that ridiculous? It's, you know, the really ridiculous thing is that I am just as good at drama. Yeah, I'm going to tell you a little story. It's a little trivia. The very same week that I got cast in Seinfeld, I was being considered for the juicy little part of Portia in director Sir Peter Hall's Broadway production of The Merchant of Venice. Apparently I didn't get the part since someone else eventually played the role on the stage. And, you know, of course, I'm happy that I didn't get that part, because if I had, I would never have played Elaine on Seinfeld, and without Seinfeld, I would not be here today. So, you know, it worked out great, totally fabulous, no regrets here, none at all, none whatsoever. Anyway, I think it's time for me to get into some serious thank yous. Abby and Ilana, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule. Just to be completely clear, I gave an excellent audition for Merchant of Venice, okay? I mean, just objectively speaking now, I nailed it, okay? So I'm just a little confused as to why Peter Hall didn't cast me. That's all, that's all. I'm not upset, obviously, because I love comedy and I love my career. Where was I? Oh, yes. Keegan! Oh my God, Keegan Michael Key. Thank you so much for being here on my special night. Look, Sir Peter Hall might have made a mistake, okay? My audition was Portia's speech about mercy. You all probably know this scene. I mean, obviously, I am not gonna perform it right now, because that would be a pretty weird tangent to hear Shakespeare intelligently and energetically performed in the middle of a comedy tribute to me. So, Kumail, thank you for being here. It is so inspiring that you were able to co-opt your wife's harrowing medical ordeal for an Oscar nomination. Bryan Cranston, you are a truly incomparable talent and a pleasure to work with. You know, when I think of us, on Seinfeld. Look, I'm just going to do it. You want to hear it, right? Yeah. I can do Shakespeare, okay? The quality of mercy is not strained. It droppeth as the gentle rain from heaven upon the place beneath. It is twice blessed. It blesseth him that gives and him that takes. And Stephen Colbert, my fellow Northwestern alum, thank you so much for being here. You were my every night hero when at 11:35 a nation turns its lonely eyes to you. Woo, woo, woo. Stephen used to play a manic conservative, and now he plays a depressed liberal. That is range, ladies and gentlemen. It is so great to see Lisa Kudrow here, setting me up just like in the old days when Friends would set up Seinfeld. And just like in the old days, Jerry's got all the money. And my darling, dear, sweet Tony Hale, if I weren't already married, and Brian and Keegan weren't already married, and if you weren't already married, then I'd definitely get your opinion about any guy I was dating before marrying him. And Tina Fey, you are a comedy genius whom I admire above all humans. Tina was honored with the Mark Twain Prize too, you know, before they got real serious about who they give these things to. And thanks to my wonderful neighbor, Jack Johnson. I was gonna make a joke about Jack Johnson, but for the love of God, can't something remain sacred this evening? And finally, to my wonderful friend, Jerry Seinfeld. I learned a lot from Jer over the years, principally the importance of hard work. Jerry killed himself to make Seinfeld good. He and Larry David worked so hard, it is impossible to describe. And they didn't just do it to make the show successful, because once it was successful, they worked even harder. And I hope a little of that rubbed off on me. I grew up here in Washington, D.C., back during the quaint, old-fashioned rule of law period. Being funny was a big part of my growing up. My great-grandmother Bessie was the first person I remember telling jokes. She was in her 90s. And I was really little, and she would do these extremely repulsive impressions of her first grade teacher having life-threatening seizures. At least I think it was an impression. Anyway, either way, I realize now that it was offensive, and she was way, way out of line. But when I was 5 years old, hilarious stuff. My mom and dad got divorced when I was 3. Also hilarious. My mom is actually here tonight with 80 of her closest friends. Last year, I was lucky enough to get an Emmy Award for my performance on Veep, which was an incredible thrill, and it set some kind of a record for the most Emmys by somebody for doing something or other. And then, about 12 hours later, I was diagnosed with cancer, another hilarious turn of events. I'm only half kidding. Of course, cancer isn't at all funny, but a big part of dealing with it has been finding the funny moments. The old cliche about laughter being the best medicine turns out to be true. which is good because that's what the current administration is trying to replace Obamacare with. When I was getting my hideous chemotherapy, I'd cram a bunch of family and friends into this tiny treatment room with me, and we really did have some great laughs. Of course, I was heavily medicated and slipping in and out of consciousness, so I was probably a pretty easy audience. But my point is that laughter is a basic human need, along with love and food and an HBO subscription. There's no situation, none, that isn't improved with a couple of laughs. Everybody needs laughs. So the fact that I've had the opportunity to make people laugh for a living is one of the many blessings that I have received in my life. According to Wikipedia, I have 2 sons, Charlie and Henry. You know, when you're a working mother, you really worry about the time spent away from your kids. You try your best to be there as much as possible. But the truth is that you miss stuff, and you worry that they're gonna just get all screwed up and suffer all kinds of angst and neuroses when they grow up. And then you get the Mark Twain Prize. I gotta say, it's worth it. I'd also like to acknowledge my cherished husband, Brad Hall, who I didn't just marry because his name sounds like Peter Hall and it kind of felt like I was getting the part. No. Brad never fails to show up at events like this very one. He puts on a suit, he puts on a smile, and is the most supportive and present spouse in the world. No. Thank you. Thank you so much, dear Brad. Thank you. And finally, thanks to Mark and Mrs. Twain and to everyone who has participated in this exhausting evening. Thank you so much, and good evening, and thank you.